Alright, we are back. So in the last video, we went through all the specifications on this little guy, the Diatone R90. Today we're going to solder up our satellite, our DSMX compatible satellite. We're going to use our radio here. We're going to bind it, and we're going to set up the radio for the quad. Now I'm going to use one of the older satellites. This is an old Lemon RX satellite. This is a 3.3 volt satellite. If you try to push 5 volts through this, you're going to run into a couple problems. So what we're going to do is decase this thing here. We're going to solder this thing to the board and just put it right on underneath this spot here. Now, you're going to have to make some changes here, and if you look to the, I would guess would be your lower left-hand screen, you're going to see these wires here. We're going to pull this pigtail here off. This doesn't apply to us. However, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to utilize the power and the ground from here. But in order to do that, we have to come in here and change the voltage from 5 volts to 3.3 volts. And on your screen, that is going to be right here, your ground and your 3.3 volts. But first, we have to change the pad so it outputs 3.3 volts instead of the 5 volts. And that pad is found right here. So we're going to go in here and we're going to solder these two pins together. But before we get started, let's go ahead and get this cage off so we can access it just a little bit easier. And you do that by going to the back, and there's 2 screws in the bottom, 2 screws in the top. Alright, cage is ready to come off here. We're going to pop the top. Pull our camera wire out for now. Set our cage off to the side. Alright, so where we were before, we've got to get this pigtail off. Alright, for those of you that are not sure, I'm using a Hakko soldering iron, about 700, 725 degrees. We're just going to go through here and touch these. Make sure none of them are touching each other. Get rid of this. Right here in the lower left-hand corner of your screen, the very first ones here, if you have the 2 bottom pads soldered, which are these 2 here, or these 2 here, you're looking at 5 volts. We want to get it to 3 volts. We want to make sure the 2 top ones are bridged, and we're going to do that right here. Okay, looks good. Now we're going to go ahead and trim these back, and we're going to tin our wires. Now if you look on the bottom here from the right side, that's the power and the ground, and then the third one over is going to be your receive wire. So right here on our thing, 1, 2, and we want that one right there, which is 3. We're going to go ahead and tin that pad, and then we're going to go ahead and solder our 3.3 red to here, our 3.3 black to there, and our signal wire there. Now, let's go ahead and plug our satellite in. And before we go any further, let's go ahead and plug it into the computer. All right, let's go ahead and pop open, plug in, and connect to our flight controller through Betaflight. All right, we're going to go to ports. We plugged in to UART6. We're going to make our serial set there. We're going to undo that one. We see our TBS Smart audio is hooked to UART3, which we just explained a few minutes ago. We're going to save and reboot. Now we're going to go to the configuration tab here. We're going to scroll down a little bit. We're going to make sure that this is set to Spectrum Sat. This is set to 2048, and we should be able to hit save and reboot. Now let's go down to the CLI. Let's type get space spectrum. All right, what we want to do is we want this, I've actually gone through here and set them up already. We want spectrum sat bind equal to 9. So what we would do is come down here and type set space, and we're going to paste it, change that to a 9 there. And then we also want to make sure this is set to off for right now. So we're going to highlight it, Control C for copy. And we're going to type set space, and then we're going to paste. Make sure that says off. Then we're going to type save and let it reboot. Now before we connect back up, we're going to come over here and unplug our board. Let it power all the way down. We're going to plug it back in, and as you can see, it put our satellite in bind mode. All right, we're going to turn our radio on here. All right, we're going to create a model. I have a model already created here, so we're just going to go in, pick it, our micro brushless quad.
Launch mode.
All right, going to turn the radio off. Now while we hit this bind button up here, we're going to turn the radio on.
Binding. DSMX 22 milliseconds.
Let off the button.
Bind complete.
All right. So one thing that you notice here, sometimes if you do it this close, it will fail. If it fails, turn it off, start the bind process over again. Sometimes you may have to hold your hand over the radio. Sometimes you may have to take the radio and separate it from the quad, and it'll usually go through and bind. So now that we've got that, we're going to go over here and hit connect on our beta flight. We're going to go down to the CLI, and we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to type get spectrum. We're going to copy this, set space, and we're going to paste. We're going to change this back to 0, enter. Do the same thing here. Copy, type set space, Control paste. We're going to change that back to on. Then we're going to go to save, enter. All right, that's pretty much all you need to get it bound. So let's go through the software and do a few things to get it connected. All right, so we've dimmed the lights a little bit to make it a little easier for you to see the screen here on the radio. So what we need to do next is we need to make sure that the flight controller understands what the radio is telling it to do. And to do that, we're going to go ahead and connect to the flight controller. We're going to switch clear down here and go immediately to receivers. Now on the receiver tab, we need to make sure that the flight controller knows what channel is controlling what function. And in this case, we need to go down and pick Spectrum, Gropner, and JR. What this means is that throttle is on channel 1, aileron is on channel 2, elevator is on channel 3, rudder is on channel 4. Now, what we're going to do next is make sure that the flight controller knows that when we push the rudder to the right, the rudder is actually going to go to the right. Rudder to the left, rudder is actually going to go to the left. We're going to do that with each one of these axes. So to start, we're going to start with roll, which is this stick. We roll to the right. We want to make sure that this red bar goes to the right. Roll to the left, make sure the red bar goes to the left. If there are any questions, you can come down here and there's a picture. So if I roll, let's go ahead and center this up. facing away. So when I roll to the right, that quad should roll to the right. When I roll to the left, it should roll to the left. Now, we're going to do this by going into clicking the trackball. I'm going to go to Servo Setup. We're going to scroll down one and highlight Travel and click it. We're going to scroll over until we get to Reverse. Now in reverse, with Spectrum, I know that aileron and rudder are going to need to be reversed. So my setups, I just immediately go in and I reverse aileron and rudder. You do that by highlighting it and clicking it. All right, once those two are reversed, go ahead and double check. So aileron to the right, bar to the right, aileron to the left, bar to the left. Elevator back, the purple bar should go to the left. Aileron forward, or elevator forward, purple bar should go forward. Yaw right, yaw left. And throttle down should be to the left, full throttle should be all the way up. Now once you get that resolved, we'll go ahead and move on to the next step, and that is centering. So what we need to do is make sure that each one of these numbers is as close to 1500 as we can possibly get them. And we do that by staying here in the Servo Setup wizard. We're going to highlight reverse again. We're going to go back to subtrims. We're going to highlight each one of these then. Let's start with the aileron. The aileron we want as close to 1500 as possible. So we're going to highlight aileron, click it in the radio, and we'll move the ball. And as you see, if I go one way, it goes up to 1510. We go back the other way. We want to get to 1500. All right, go ahead and click it. And you'll do that for each one of these axes. You'll move on the elevator, do the elevator. Same with the rudder. Next, we'll go ahead and go back up to subtrim and highlight it. And next we're going to control our endpoints. We want to make sure that the throws here get from 1000 to 2000. If they don't, then we're going to go to our radio. We're going to highlight and go to sub travel. We're going to click it and we're going to roll down and we're going to click on each one of these. So let's go with aileron. You notice that with the stick centered, it highlights both. So we'll go ahead and highlight it and click it. Come over here to our beta flight, and we're going to go roll. That way you see it's at 1999. So you notice the box actually rolls up to one of them. We're going to move that until we get to 2000. Now we want a minimum of 2000. So there's nothing wrong with being at 2003. There's a lot wrong with being at 1999, especially on the throttle and the yaw axis. So we're going to go roll right, and if you notice the box will actually switch to the bottom. We're going to mess with that. 1001 is too high. Next one down is 1997, so we're going to stick with 1997. And click, and that'll keep it. Now we'll roll to each one of these, and do that to each one of these until we get 1000 to 2000 on each one of these axes. 1000, 2000, 2000, 1000. All right. Now, if you can't get these perfectly on 1500, what we're going to do is come over here and raise our deadband. We're going to set, I usually set them at about 2. What this does is says, you know, if you're at 1501, that's good enough for centered. Same with yaw, I usually raise that to 4. It's just a personal preference. And we're going to go ahead and hit save, and that is complete. The next thing we're going to roll to is we're going to hit PIDS real quick while we're here. I am not going to mess with the PIDS just for the simple fact they say it's tuned for 3S, so we're going to give this a shot for 3S. But what I am going to do is I'm going to lower my rates a little bit. What the RC rate does is down here in the center of the stick, it makes it more sensitive to your touching and your movements of the stick towards the center. So we're going to lower that so it's not so sensitive at center stick. However, once we get towards the end of the stick, that's where super rates come in. So we're going to raise super rates a little bit to give us a little more sensitivity at the end of the sticks. And this is all pure personal preference, what you like. All right, other than that, I am not going to touch anything else in PID, so we're going to fly it and see what it does. Hit save. Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to come over here and set up modes. As you see, we have nothing really here set up. In order to set these up, we need to know what switch moves what auxiliary button. Right? And this really depends on how you have them set up in your radio. So we're going to go back to the receivers tab. We're going to be concerned with one switch here, just for starters. And that's this one here. This will control my arming, and it will also control my modes. All right, so let's go back down here to modes. All right, first thing we want to do is we want to set the switch position where it is not going to be armed. This is where I do not want the motor or the quads to be armed. And you see aux1, this yellow tick down here at the bottom moves. So we are in the disarm position. We want to make sure that wherever that tick is, it's not within this yellow band. So there, and we want to save it. All right, so in this position, it will not be armed. Now we're going to go in the middle position. I say I want that to be armed. So I'm going to open this yellow bar until it gets wherever that tick is, and I'm going to hit save. All right. Now within the center position, it falls within the yellow bar. The arm lights up. That means that it will be armed in that position. I also want it to stay armed with it in the all the way up position. If you notice, the tick still stays within the yellow bar, so therefore to be armed. Now I want to use the same switch to set up my modes. Okay, so disarmed, the middle one, I want that to be a horizon mode right here. So we're going to add a range here. We're going to set it because we know this switch operates aux1, and wherever this tick is where horizon will be. So center mode, I want it to horizon, so I want to make sure that tick is in this yellow area here. I want to hit save. And if you notice, it lights up. So disarmed, not lit, not lit. Center, it is armed and in horizon mode. Now, I want to set up a rate mode as well. Well, by default, the flight controller is already in rate mode, as long as nothing else is active. So if I push this position all the way up, this tick moves outside this area. There's nothing else active, which means it'll fall within rate mode. And there are your modes. For the most part, this is the basic setup we're going to do with the radio and the software. Next, we'll check out the OSD. So now that we got that done, let's go ahead and check out the OSD on that camera. So I've got a set of goggles here we'll fire up. All right. Get us a battery here. This is just a little 3S Tattoo 650. Turn my radio on. All right, let's go ahead and fire this thing up. All right, red light comes on the satellite. We're good to go. Let's see what we got in our goggles. We'll do a search for the channel. Looks like A1 or maybe even F7. There we go. All right, see Diatone GT-R90. We have in the lower left, we have our battery voltage. And we can adjust what's on the screen in the Betaflight software at a later time. We're just going to go with this for right now. All right, so let's go ahead and plug in the RunCam OSD and see if it does anything for us. All right, we're plugged in. Let's go ahead and hit the button and see what happens. Oh wow, look at that. It is in all Chinese. So let's see if we can find some English here. There we go. Last one. Second from the last line is language. I just hit to the right one time. All right, we have cam title off. It looks like everything that is on most of your normal camera. Let's go to exposure. We want WDR on. Everything else we're going to leave the same. Looks like everything here is set up basic. Shouldn't have to change anything other than language. All right, nice. All right, so let's go ahead and unplug our OSD. We know we can make some changes there. Next, let's go ahead and see if we can't get into the OSD, change channels on the BTX. Alright, we're going to go to throttle mid, we're going to yaw left, and throttle up. And there we go, our OSD menu. So let's go ahead and features. Alright, let's go down here, go to the band. Let's go to Fat Shark. Let's go to Fat Shark 4, let's see what that is. Let's go to power, 200, 500, 800, 500, 225. Let's go to 25. And let's go to set. Confirm yes. Alright, we lost our video. Let's go ahead and pop our goggles off here. Let's change our channel to F4. See if that did it. Look at that. Looks good. Alright, so let's go down. Let's get out of the OSD. Let's save and reboot. Alright, let's go ahead and let it reboot. Alright, we're set up. All the basic functions of the Betaflight is still there. We made very minor changes. So let's throw some props on this thing and see what she does. Alright, finally, the rain is gone. I've been sitting here staring out my window for 3 days in the rain. So I'm running a Tattoo 650 milliamp 3S battery. Let's see what we have in our goggles here. Let's see what this does. Change the OSD just a touch. Wow, that's quick. Rate's actually not too bad. PIDS don't feel too bad straight out of the box. Not too bad. Alright. Take two. Well, it's actually not too bad. I was expecting the PIDS to be off a little bit. I did a small little crash in the beginning. Wasn't used to it, took it too hard at first. Had to throw some different props on. And I expected with these 4-blade props that I would be having issues, but it actually flies pretty nice. This is aftermarket little 4-blade, 2-inch props. Cheapy little things you get from Banggood or something like that. Really wasn't too bad. Not getting oscillation. It flies great. Kind of surprised. I took that first hit pretty big. I thought it was going to break something, but so far nothing. I hit that tree right there at full blast. The camera is not bad either. I expected it to be an off no-name camera. I expected it to have some issues with light, but it's very, very, very nice. All right, that's the Diatone GT R90. Thanks for watching.